Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ashley Godwin. The Little Rock Marathon weekend officially comes to a close with thousands of runners participating this year. Tonight, THV 11's Jalissa Garza gives us a closer look and introduces us to the winner of the marathon.
3, 2, 1,
The Little Rock Marathon is a tradition that's continued for about 2 decades.
Our first race was 2003, and we welcome people from around the world, all 50 states.
Executive Director of the marathon, Geneva Lamb, says around 10,000 runners participated this year.
How people find out about us, I do not know, but they come to experience Little Rock and to get that big medal that we give them when they finish.
One of the thousands of runners is Colin Berger, who, like many people participating, isn't from the natural state, but was drawn here to join in on the tradition.
I've been training for this for a while. Since prior to 2020, senior year of college, I wanted to do a fast marathon, and this is just the first time times have lined up.
Berger was the first to complete the full marathon on Sunday.
And I just knew that I had the training in me, I had the gas in the tank, and I was just ready to go.
The full marathon, 26 miles, which he completed under 3 hours. Berger, like many, proud to make it across the finish line.
My coach, he always tells me that you just got to put one foot in front of the other and you just got to finish. And I knew at the 23, I knew all that was left to do was to finish.
Lamb says the tradition will continue and hopes that those who raced got more than just a medal from this.
But having the ability to just create a great tradition, something positive.
In Little Rock, Jalissa Garza, THV 11 News.
Well, it was definitely a beautiful day for the marathon. Honestly, just to be out and about, I want to give it a 10 out of 10 type of day. We were very warm on top of that. Look at our highs for today. We reached the mid 70s across a good portion of the area. Look at that. Texarkana 80, 78 in El Dorado, 77 in Camden, Monticello. It's still feeling pretty refreshing right now as of this evening, sitting in the low 60s to mid to upper 50s in a few spots. We'll continue to stay pretty quiet and cool tonight, dropping down to around the low 50s under mostly clear skies. We're seeing some high clouds move in, so it'll give a little bit of that filtered out effect over the fullish moon that we're seeing right now. But by tomorrow morning, we'll begin that warming trend, and by tomorrow afternoon, highs will be nearing 80 degrees. It's going to be short-lived, though. We do have some cooler temperatures later this week, along with some rounds of rain. More of that, unfortunately, after already a soggy past week. I'll have a full look at that forecast coming up for you guys in just a bit.
Thanks, Corrales. Responders in Garland County pull an SUV from Lake Hamilton with human remains inside. This all started February 22nd when the sheriff's office got a call from a fisherman reporting a possible sunken vehicle. This Friday, divers went down and saw skeletal remains inside it. Yesterday, they hauled up the 2003 Ford Escape and discovered it was linked to a missing persons case. Now the body has to be sent to the crime lab for identification. Police in Hot Springs are investigating a shooting. It happened Friday night in the area of West St. Louis Street and Central Avenue. Authorities tell us a man was shot during the incident. He was taken to the hospital, but police are not sharing his condition at this time. If you know anything about this, you're asked to call Hot Springs Police. And in Little Rock, officials are working to determine what caused a fire at a house in Midtown. Crews were called out to C Street just before 10 Saturday morning. Firefighters evacuated the home as well as the house next door, which suffered some damage. Fortunately, no one was hurt and crews were able to put out the flames. 6th Street Bridge in downtown Little Rock partially reopens today after being closed for extensive maintenance. Last April, crews started working on rebuilding the bridge. It's now partly back open after we're told the contractor met its schedule to demolish and reconstruct the bridge in 11 months. And drivers who take Kavanaugh, heads up, they're resurfacing the road beginning tomorrow along the path here on your screen from Van Buren to Markham. They're also restriping the surface and some areas will now have bike lanes. And President Biden is set to pay tribute to the heroes of Bloody Sunday in Selma, Alabama today, joining thousands for the annual commemoration of the U.S. Civil Rights Movement. It comes a day after former President Donald Trump delivered a fiery keynote speech in Maryland at the Conservative Political Action Conference, targeting the president and his administration. CBS's Christian Benavides reports from Miami.
With his eye on the White House, former President Donald Trump took aim at his potential Democratic rival, President Biden.
We will evict Joe Biden from the White House, and we will liberate America from these villains and scoundrels once and for all.
Trump's speech Saturday night at the annual Conservative Political Action Conference comes as the field of GOP candidates widens. Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, who told Face the Nation he will not enter the race, says he wants his party to move away from Trump's grip.
I think we certainly went off in the wrong direction. I would say the party of Reagan is not dead, and neither is the party of Trump.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who placed second behind Trump in the CPAC straw poll for the Republican Party nomination for president, spoke at the Reagan Library outside Los Angeles.
And yes, we need to win the fight for freedom, and if we do, we will be winning one more for the Gipper.
President Biden, who has not officially said he's seeking re-election, is in Selma, Alabama to commemorate the 58th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, a flashpoint in the civil rights movement.
Beaten, tear gassed. On this bridge, blood was given to help redeem the soul of America.
The president joined others in a march across the historic Edmund Pettus Bridge. Cristian Benavides, CBS News, Miami.
And for the second time in a month, a Norfolk Southern train has derailed in Ohio. This time it happened near a highway in Springfield. According to the company, 20 cars of a 212-car train derailed. There were no hazardous materials aboard the train and no reported injuries. People living within 1,000 feet of the accident were asked to shelter in place out of a, quote, abundance of caution. Ukrainian troops push back multiple Russian maneuvers around the besieged city of Bakhmut. The battle for the city has now raged on for 7 months, and the stakes are high for both sides. Capturing Bakhmut is unlikely to change the trajectory of the war, but seizing the city has been an all-consuming goal for Moscow. After a series of major setbacks, President Vladimir Putin is desperate for a win, even if only symbolic, and seizing the city would be the first major territorial gain for his forces in over half a year. Turning now to Syria and Turkey, where people continue to recover from last month's deadly earthquake. Volunteers from Arkansas are now helping survivors as they pick up the pieces and begin to rebuild. Jose Carranza shares the story of a photojournalist from our sister station in Northwest Arkansas who has been on the ground in Turkey.
The death toll continues to rise in Turkey and Syria. At least 50,000 people killed, according to the Associated Press.
Many different stories coming out of here, just people losing everything.
Brandon Hartung has traveled from Arkansas to aid those in need.
We've just been here helping. There's a lot of wonderful people working on the ground, helping these people, doing feeding centers, setting up tents, trying to get more permanent structures.
From distributing food and clothes, or even bringing stuffed animals for children.
There's no produce, there's no food, there's no even running water.
Hartung says it'll take 2 to 3 years to rebuild, forcing many to either leave what was once their homes or now live in tents.
The buildings in the town down that didn't fall, they're going to have to fall, so there's going to be another round of digging out buildings and just completely almost rebuilding a city of, I would guess, hundreds of thousands of people. And this is just one of many cities in Turkey and then across the border in Syria.
And as Hartung says, the cities can be rebuilt. There's one reality many are facing.
And the painful and hard part of the story is the people. There's so much loss, so much death, over 40,000 just here in Turkey so far. They're still digging and finding people. They've lost loved ones, they've lost neighbors and friends, and just trying to survive.
That's why, as a former 5 News photojournalist, he continues telling people stories.
He was outside and he heard all the buildings in his neighborhood fall at once, like an instant. And then he heard people crying and asking for help, and they're trapped, and there's no way to help them. It's just a nightmare scenario for the survivors and the ones that lost their lives.
And if you'd like to find out more about Mission Field Media, you can check out missionfieldmedia.org. In other news, author, spiritual leader, and political activist Marianne Williamson officially announcing her candidacy for the Democratic nomination for president. A spiritual advisor to Oprah Winfrey and seller of psychic memorabilia, Williamson spent about a year seeking the Democratic presidential nomination in 2020. Now, right now, she is the only Democrat in the race. President Biden has yet to announce a formal re-election bid, but aides said that will likely come in April. Walgreens will not sell an abortion pill by mail in 20 conservative-led states, including here in Arkansas. The decision comes after the attorneys general in those states warned the pharmacy chain, as well as CVS, that they could face legal consequences if they sell and mail the pill to residents. While Walgreens is not currently dispensing the abortion pill in any states, it is working to become eligible through an FDA-mandated certification process. And tomorrow on THV 11, don't miss a special presentation of Sentenced to Death, the murder that unsettled Arkansas. After more than a year of investigation and production, THV 11's feature-length true crime documentary will air during prime time. The documentary focuses on the 1983 rape and murder of Air Force nurse Greta Mason and the man who was found guilty in the case, Barry Lee Fairchild. Sentenced to Death airs Monday night at 7:30 only on THV 11. And voters in Oklahoma will head to polls on Tuesday to decide whether to approve a ballot measure that would legalize recreational marijuana. The conservative state already has one of the nation's most robust medical marijuana programs. Supporters of the measure tried to get the question on the November ballot, but a delay in verifying the signatures led to the governor calling for a special election just for that proposal. And check this out, Soup Sunday at the venue at Westwind. It's an event full of soups of all kinds, plus fresh baked bread and tasty treats. It was all to raise money for Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families. Restaurants in the Little Rock area contributed some of their favorite dishes, giving folks in the capital city something cool to do indoors after the marathon while stocking up on carbs.
Everything from tomato bisque to gumbos, lobster bisques. We've got all sorts of soups.
Oh yeah, we really tried to have a wide variety of soups this year to suit every palate.
This was Little Rock's 42nd Soup Sunday. Corrales?
Hey, never the wrong type of weather for some soup for sure. So this week in weather, it's going to be very similar to what we saw last week. We're going to be starting off with very warm conditions, ending the week with cooler conditions and some rain. Unfortunately, we have several rounds of that in the forecast for the upcoming week. More on that just ahead.